Okay, so here is the question you described. So we have vector C and vector D that make an angle of 50 degrees. So notice they are tail to tail, that they need to be tail to tail in order to find the angle between them. The magnitude of vector C is 4, the magnitude of vector D is 5. So if we wanted to find the magnitude of vectors 3C plus D, the easiest way for me to do that is to picture what's happening. So I have 3 vector C's. So if each vector is 4, then obviously this entire thing is going to be 12. And I'll use a different color here. We're going to have one vector D, and it was 5. Now at this point we need to remember that if we have vectors tail to tail, we must use the parallelogram law. So our resultant vector is going to be this vector right here. So when I think about drawing a new triangle even, I have one side that has a length of 5. My resultant vector is this vector right here, and then what I'm going to do essentially is take this vector that's 12, or 3 times c, and I'm going to shift it over here. Like, we know that this side has to match this side. So what I have here is I have one vector that's 5, one vector that's 12, and this is my resultant vector, or in this case 3c plus d. Now, I know that this angle between my original vectors was 50. So we need to do a little bit of math so that we can figure out the other angles. So we see a C here. So if this angle is 50, then that means that this angle must be 180 minus 50, or 130. Now that I have all of this information, it's easy for me to use the cosine law to figure out this resultant. I have 2 sides and a contained angle, so the answer will be easy. The next part of your question asked what would happen if it was a subtract d. And the answer really is that the vector d is now just going to be the opposite way. So now when I take a look at this, this is the minus d that I want to be using. It still has a length of 5. My 3c is still going to have its length of 12. And my parallelogram law is going to look like this. Now, the important thing to recognize is that if this angle is 50, now this angle between my 3c and my negative d is going to be 180 minus 50, or 130. So what I have now is I have this triangle. I'll draw the whole parallelogram in, I guess. I know that this is 12, which means that this is 12. I know that this is 5, which means that this is 5. I know that this angle is 130. Now, this helps me determine this angle. Again, this is a C, it must add to 180, so this angle is 50. So I have, if I just shall use a highlighter here, I guess, if I look at this part of the triangle right here, I have this triangle that is 12, 5 with an angle of 50, and I would be able to find my resultant, or my 3c subtract d. And again, you would be using the cosine law to figure this out, since you know 2 sides and a contained angle.